Hello, everyone. So, the other day in Toronto was the Women in the World conference, which had Prime Minister Trudeu speaking at a couple of roundtables and events. And there's lots of interview footage of him speaking at these events, and you can go check that out if you're interested. But I came across a Twitter thread that linked to this, and so this talk is called, quote, "Taking on the Tyrant." And one of the featured speakers is Miss Freeland, who's currently negotiating NAFTA. So, well, watch this. This is the intro that Miss Freeland is on the stage during. And you can, if you're watching on video, you can download this through the iTunes podcast library, I suppose. I've submitted it to that. But if you're watching on YouTube, you should be able to see her reaction, and it's kind of funny. I mean, considering that she's in active NAFTA negotiations, I think the reaction to this video's imagery is really interesting. All right.
There's a name for Viktor Orban's system of government. He calls it illiberal democracy. It's basically the primacy of populist nationalism over individual freedoms.
On the campaign trail, Italy's new interior minister used hardline rhetoric to fire up the voters.
Fake, disgusting news.
This was a direct act by the Russian state against our country.
Yeah, big smile. Okay, so you're in NAFTA negotiations. You agreed to speak publicly at a talk that lumps Trump in with dictators. Is that sending a clear message? This is yesterday. Like, this is literally yesterday. This isn't a couple of years ago. This is yesterday. This is September 10th that this happened. This was published today by the Women in the World group, and the link will be in the description, as with everything I talk about. So they touch on Trump a few times. They touch on, like, direct questions that you'd think that Freeland would get into talking about Trump. She doesn't. And instead I'm going to show you, she goes on a really long, rambling answer that talks about economic anxiety and then outright questions capitalism, which is, I was watching the whole thing, and just my jaw, I was just confused and concerned that this was the person who's negotiating trade with Donald Trump and his representatives. Like, honestly, she was asked a pretty clear question, and we'll play the game at the end. The game starts at 12:35, 12:36, I think. Hold on. Yeah, 12:35 is where the game starts. And the question is, what question did Ms. Freeland hear? That's the game we're going to play later at the end of the video. So, okay, in 19 minutes, we're going to listen to Ms. Freeland's rambling answer and hear what she thinks about the capitalist system. And remember, she's negotiating trade today on our behalf. Yay!
And I would just like to build on your uncertainty point, because I really believe that particularly in sort of the industrialized West, this concern about the future and sense of uncertainty about the future, particularly when it comes to the economy, is extremely powerful. And it's real. It's not sort of a fake concern. People are worried because there's something to worry about. I was recently talking with the CEO of a big Canadian transport company, and I won't name him because I didn't tell him that I would mention his story today. And he was talking to me about how they have a big shortage of truck drivers. And the reason they have a shortage of truck drivers is no one wants to train to be a truck driver now because people see automation coming. So imagine if you're my age, I turned 50 this summer, and it was okay, I survived. Imagine if you're my age and you're a truck driver. My uncle was a truck driver, and you're a truck driver, and you see this wave of automation coming, and you think to yourself, like, will my job last long enough for me to retire? That is not some kind of amorphous anxiety. That is very real economic anxiety. And I think in a lot of Western industrialized democracies, that anxiety has come on top of very real lived failure of capitalist democracy, right? It has come on top of the 2008 financial crisis. It has come on top of median wage stagnation for decades. And so I think that there is, nothing that mysterious about people saying, you know what, this system, which was supposed to deliver security for me, opportunities for my children, one, hasn't been doing such a great job for the past 20 years, and two, doesn't seem to have a plan for how the next 20 or 30
wow,
years
this could be a discussion.
Okay, I just want to point out that capitalism has raised more people out of poverty than any other system humans have ever managed to figure out, bar none, hands down, period. Socialism has killed more people than a whole lot of other ways to manage people. And that you can read the Gulag Archipelago, look at Hitler, Mao, and very other more famous Stalin examples all throughout the 20th century. So saying capitalism doesn't seem to have a plan, let's try this socialism thing, it seems like a really bad position to be negotiating NAFTA from. Especially from the stage of taking on the tyrant. Who are you talking about? Oh, Mr. Trudeu, that's who we're talking about. No, that's not who you're talking about. So I wanted to point this out. This is the moderator, and 2150 here.
Research I saw, and you didn't even get to answer the second part, and I knew 30 minutes wasn't going to be enough here, but I was reading some research recently that millennials, a bigger number of people in that cohort than ever, are questioning whether or not democracy and the capitalist system that underpins it is of value. And even if that's only 15 or 18% of the people, that's a lot of people. So you're clearly right, but there's a whole lot to excavate there. I mean, right.
Like, for example, why the question is posed that way? Why we're having why we have linked democracy and capitalism as though they're inextricable?
Well, aren't they?
No.
Aren't they?
No.
Okay, well.
Okay, and so that's what? Okay, so yeah, right, sure, yeah. We've got, maybe 15% of young people seriously questioning capitalism. Those young people have a point, right? Yeah. What? No. Those young people are idiots who have known no different for their whole life. They went from their parents to school to a university campus that made sure they were fed and clothed and all that stuff. They've known nothing else. They haven't had to put a roof over their head or had to pay for the roof that goes over their head or the food that goes in the fridge or the job or maybe the business and the other people who rely on them for their families too. We're talking about vastly different systems and different things, but capitalism is not to blame for the failures of the last 20 years, ladies. Sorry. Okay, and this is Justin Trudeau last week on an Edmonton radio station insulting Donald Trump.
Clear is that we have red lines that Canadians simply will not accept. We need to keep the Chapter 19 dispute resolution because that ensures that the rules are actually followed. And we know we have a president who doesn't always follow the rules as they're laid out. And the other thing that really matters to people.
So that's a really strong position to be negotiating NAFTA from, eh, Justin? So posted September 11th at 10:44 a.m., by CBC, quote, Trudeau warns of potential, quote, massive disruption in auto sector as NAFTA talks resume. Shocking! Are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? Seriously? it is just astonishing that more Liberal MPs are not up in arms over this publicly. This is criminal mismanagement of the trade negotiations. First, Trudeau abdicated first movement by refusing to act without Mexico, and then Mexico signs a deal, clearly because Trump cut Freeland out. Check my other videos if you're not sure how that happened, but it's pretty well documented that Mr. Trump does not like Ms. Freeland, and I mean, many times Ms. Freeland has been public about her dislike of Mr. Trump, and not least yesterday appearing at this rally. Don't expect a NAFTA deal signed anytime soon. And Mr. Scheer is not one to change course on this. So if you want to continue the trade war, then vote CPC, I suppose, in the 2019 election. If you're looking for change, if you want this clown out of office and you want a Canadian who's for Canadians, check out MaximeBernier.com and you might be interested in voting for him. Thanks for watching, guys and gals. Have a great night.